guess I should get more like some notepad. Let me go run.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Oh, we still have a couple of people coming in. I hope you enjoyed the short little video. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. Today, we are celebrating the Bilingual Child Month Together. Hold on a second. Let me get up here. And a few housekeeping items. You can enable closed captioning. Everyone will be on mute except for the host. So if you are not muted, can you kindly go ahead and mute yourself? You can respond to our questions via the chat feature. And today's event will be recorded. Okay, so if you want to rewatch this video, you can at a later date. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce the Read Your World team. My name is Frances Diaz-Evans. I'm your project manager. I am excited to be here with you guys. We also have Liana Guiden Mora. She's our social media manager. Our little, I call her the IG Live guru host. Where is she? Okay. And Mia Wenjan, she is not here with us today. She's our co-founder and president. And now I'm going to hand it over to Amanda.
Wow, so exciting to be here. And thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Celebrating Bilingual Child Month panel event. First, I want to thank our host, Read Your World, a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing multicultural children's books. And also a very special thank you to Read Your World project manager, Frances, who just shared a lot of information with you, and social media manager, Liana, for their incredible support and all the behind the scenes work and making this event possible. And then I want to also bring you our panelists. They are from the States, they are from Europe, in the Netherlands, in UK, and in the US. This is seriously a very wonderful event. We can bring people together to celebrate Bilingual Children's Month together. And then I want to thank all the audience who are here. And we are also going to celebrate it with a giveaway. So you probably just saw the slides because we want to show our appreciation. And we know, how sometimes it's challenging to get some resources. And then we have the resources for you from the experts right here. And then I'm very honored to be the moderator for today. But first I want to first I want to let you know this is a special time, to have this event to celebrate with what is happening in the world. I think that more than ever, we need to build connections, have communities, and also have empathy. And then having knowing another language and also reading more books, diverse books, is going to bridge that. And then we're hoping we can continue to promote this and help each other to get to know each other better and help our children to get to know their friends and the world better. So first, I want to introduce you to our panelists. The first one is Annika Forzani, and she is the founder of Language Lizard. It is a wonderful place. They share resources, books in over 60 languages. 60, and I believe the last time I checked was 50. Now it's more than 60. So I bet you're going to see a lot of things are, adding on there. So welcome, Annika, and thank you, and also Frances. Frances Diaz-Evans is a Latina author and educator and a multicultural and language advocate. And she's also award-winning author. More importantly, she has fascinating stories to share with you how she's able to introduce the second language to her son, not at the beginning, but somewhere when he's a little bit older. I believe you'll really be inspired by that. And then from the Netherlands, we have Ute Limaha, and She has been an amazing researcher. Everything's research-based, and then her sharing, you can find everywhere. And the most important thing, the everyday tips is really something she put her research and her practice into. So from her books to her webinars to her courses, you will learn a lot from her. So welcome, Ute.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
And then we have Yoshito. Yoshito Dharman Shimamori is known as multilingual dad. And then, he always has that amazing smile and bringing you how he actually practiced and guide his kids to learn French, Korean, and he is also a language teacher, Spanish and French teacher, and also he is an author. So he brings you the children tested, parents approved advice and to you. So welcome, Yoshito.
Thank you very much for having me. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Well, and then we want to welcome all our audience, and we're so happy you're here to celebrate with us together. So we're just going to jump in. Are we ready to jump in?
Can you just give me one quick little
Yes.
second? Actually, Mia just logged in.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you. She can just say hello to everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Mia. Read your world.
I thought we were going to miss you today, but thank you. I'm so excited that you're here. Okay. So we're
Thrilled to be here.
Well,
Okay.
Mia, would you like to say a few words of, because you've been supporting this whole Bilingual Child Month event, from the very beginning. And Mia, you're the co-founder of Read Your World, and we have been so grateful. You've been sharing so many diverse children's books, to families, educators, and also you support all the authors. Yeah, why don't you say a few words for us?
Sure. So I have 3 kids, and now my oldest is 23, my middle is 21, and my youngest is 19. And now they tell me, how come we don't speak more languages? Because their dad's Korean and I'm half Japanese and half Chinese. And all I can say is you know what? I tried. I had Spanish tutors, I had Chinese tutors, I had them in Chinese school, I had Plaza Sesamo playing nonstop. And, so I think that shows the gamut of how valuable it is to learn languages, and also what the struggle is if you're a parent and like me, I'm not fluent in other languages, and their dad speaks Korean at a 3rd grade level, but didn't really speak to them in Korean, and their grandmother, who speaks fluent Korean, lives in a different time zone. But now when all is said and done and the kids grow up and they say, wait, I wish I had that skill. I wish I had that, and all I can say is I tried, but look, 2 of you can roll your R's, okay? And you've been exposed to the languages so that when you do speak, your accent actually is pretty good. And now it's up to you. I mean, I tried and, we failed, but I laid some groundwork for you. But so my hat is off to those of you who are able to get your children to speak fluently in multiple languages. I know the struggle and I know the payoff, and, and it's a whole like spectrum, where you can start at any point and you can always go back at it, and you can, learn one language and start another. But I think because the world is just getting smaller and smaller, and, if you like to travel, if you like to eat food from around the world, you'll realize how beautiful it is to be able just to communicate, even just a little bit. Like, even when I travel, I just try to learn 5 words, please and thank you and where's the bathroom, and it just makes everything happier and smoother, and you're more appreciated. So that's why, I mean, I'm a fervent believer of bilingual. I wish I could say, like, I'm right there, my kids are bilingual. They're not, but my husband's on Duolingo now learning Spanish. I'm on Duolingo, 1,400 days on Japanese. So anyway,
Mia, at least you're supporting this event. You're supporting, celebrating the Bilingual Child Month, and
absolutely
we're excited that Amanda brought this to us, and we welcome her with open arms, because they're so tied in to so many things. So, but I'll let Amanda talk about that. Okay. Thank you, Mia.
Oh, thank you so much, Mia. I think you actually just opened a whole box of treasure for us to talk about, because we understand, because a lot of us, we have been on the journey for a while. Some of them, and then some of the panelists, actually, we grew up with more than one language. So this is the experience from our own generation to our next generation. So Mia, we totally understand what you're saying, and we want to really bring the information and resources and reliable resources to the families. So just before we start, I want to remind the audience that you might have questions as you listen to the panelists. So please leave your questions in the chat for the Q&A, and then we will be able to handle that. So please leave your questions in the chat. And then, so our first question for our panelists is, at this time, how do you help families who are raising bilingual children? And what is the role of literacy in raising bilingual kids? Well, so basically, we want to know, how can the parents and educators better utilize bilingual multicultural books and your resources? Yeah, and how about Annika? I think you have resources, over 60
Sure.
languages. We need that.
Sure, yeah. At Language Lizard, so we work with teachers and a lot of homeschool families and parents that are supporting language learners, as well as immigrants, refugees, et cetera, in many, many languages. And one of our goals has always been to expand the literacy experience with our books, both for the dual language children as well as for the rest of the class. So in other words, we want the engagement with any title to be much, much more than, say, the 5 to 15 minutes it might take to read the book. We want the books to not only support the literacy development, but also to be a springboard for discussions, cultural exploration, and just having fun with the children. So we created a collection called the Language Lizard Premium Collection. And each of those books in the collection, first of all, they're available in English with a choice of anywhere from sort of 12 to over 40 languages. And when people buy the books, they are also able to download a whole host of additional materials, including like full multicultural lesson plans that include cross-curricular extension activities, fun activity sheets, videos, audios, more, and more. So while one of our main goals is that dual language children will develop literacy skills using a book that they can also read at home with their families in the language that the family is most comfortable in, we also want to give teachers the tools to use the books for exposing even non-language learners to other cultures and languages. So that's what we've been really trying to focus on.
Well, that's a great resource. And then we understand that people probably will understand, well, Bilingual Child Month, why do you talk about literacy? Well, this is actually research-based. There's one, the researcher I really trust in, and also I really love, is Dr. Stephen Christian. He talks about the comprehensible input. Kids need to understand what they have been receiving. And also he talks about literacy, reading, the importance of reading. A lot of parents talking about the verbal conversation, but a lot of people, they really need to do is to add reading to the biliteracy development. So I think that's one thing I want to mention. Yeah, any of our panelists who would like to join the conversation right now for this topic?
Yeah.
Yes,
Or maybe
Michelle.
Unta, do you want to go ahead?
To answer the first question, so how we help families and the role of literacy. Well, okay, I'm multilingual since the beginning. So I grew up with multiple languages and added more, and I'm still adding more. So what I like to do, and what I'm very passionate about, is to support families do the same. So to raise their children with more than one language effectively, and helping them to find also the strategies to keep everyone, not only the children, but also the parents, because when we raise our children abroad with our languages, one of the major struggles, at least for me, was to keep motivated myself, because other languages are added to the plate, and maintaining our languages and making them appealing, and yes, our children feeling proud of what they are learning is really a challenge over time. So that is what I like to do, and I want them really to enjoy everyone the whole journey. There are a lot of ups and downs, and I do this through courses, trainings, and webinars. And as for the role of literacy or multiliteracy, it is actually a goal that we need to set from the beginning. Sometimes parents start on the journey and they don't really know where they're heading. They say, oh, I want my child to be able to speak. And then all of a sudden they say, well, actually, I wanted them also to read. And the children are 14. And then it's never too late, but it becomes more challenging and more daunting for the children because they have so much else on their plates. So this is where I help them with to have this plan from early on and to try to stick to certain kind of routines and to be consistent throughout the journey. And the resource that I created together with Annalisa Miranda is a toolbox for multilingual families, because I know from myself that sometimes I ran out of ideas on how to make the language appealing, how to play around with it, because I really like to play and not to take everything too seriously. And so we gathered 123 activities and games that one can do with the children from 0 to 15+ year olds. With all the languages to foster understanding, speaking, reading, and writing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to add that you can find Ute in the Ute's International Language Academy, and then her books, the toolbox for multilingual families is available. And also this is a very important information. You should jot it down. We'll share with you. How to Raise a Bilingual Child is a free download. And then as you heard that her resource, the toolbox for multilingual families, is for children 0 to 15 years old. So 123 activities. I think usually you see a very small, like early literacy, early ages, but sometimes there's a gap and then disappeared. And then, so this is definitely a wonderful resource. So thank you, Ute. And Yoshito.
I wanted to mention something
Yes.
about Ute's toolbox. I've used it. I'm speaking as a parent turned teacher raising a bilingual son. I started late when he was 4 years old. And just like Ute mentioned, there's a lot of phases. He went from, okay, 4-year-old, excited to learn a new language, to I don't want to learn Spanish ever again. Why? To slowly incorporating Spanish again, to right now, like I think 2 years ago, he actually asked me to better and improve his Spanish, which was, I'm like, yes, so it was like a lot of phases. But Ute's toolbox, I used it not necessarily on my son, but on my students, that I teach Spanish to. So she has a wonderful resource, but I think the whole part of, learning to speak the language, you also need to learn how to read and write, because that's how you expand your vocabulary. And I'm pretty sure Yoshito has a lot to say about this.
Yeah, so for me, I think literacy has a particular place in my heart, but it's because growing up, I did not have a good experience in learning to read and write in Japanese, but also, I guess, reading in general. Even now as an adult, it is an effort for me to open a book. Once I'm hooked, it's fine, but there is this little moment where it's an effort for me. And I didn't want that for my sons because now as a teacher, as an adult, I see all the benefits of being able to read and write in all our languages, but also about this experience of reading. So I didn't want them to feel, oh, I have to read a book, but more that it would be a pleasure. So I created the Library for Multilinguals, and that's what I do. It's really focusing on multilingual literacy, but also how to make this journey enjoyable. So I wrote the Parents Guide to Raising Multiliterate Children, and I'm in the process of publishing 3 other books. And the aim of these books are really to make sure that the child doesn't just have to read because they have to read, it's the home language, but they want to read. And so it's for, so those that are going to be published are for preteens and teens. There is a graphic novel, there is diary where there are prompts. So it's to get the child to just start writing, reflecting on their own experience. And the third one, it's a guide to learn to develop the skills we're developing naturally because we are surrounded by different languages and cultures, and to turn them into superpowers. So these are the books I published. It's really just to get children to be enthusiastic about the journey. And I also have a YouTube channel, or two YouTube channels, one that I share with Uta, that's activities for multilingual families, and another one that's library for multilinguals. And then you can find me on Instagram as well. So at the moment, I guess it's more, I'm at a small scale. I just write my books and try to publish them. And yeah, so one thing I guess I would say as an advice, and one thing I keep in mind when I write my books and I put all these resources and things online, it's to, especially for parents and teachers who love to read, it's to not just find the best book for your child, but to create this whole experience. And one of them that Amanda mentioned before is to read with our children and spending the time to read with our children, to connect with them. And because this connection is going to also create the like a nice experience and a bond with your children. So that's my number one goal, to create this bond between children and parents, and to make the journey enjoyable.
That's really beautiful, and that's really true. That's what, well, this is what Yoshito shared with me before the event. He said his goal is to make the experience of a learning to read and write in the home language a fun and compelling experience. So just to listen to that, you can see the passion. And then I think when he talked about his own experience, you know, when he was younger, and then I remember my daughter when she was about 3, one day I couldn't find any Mandarin, any books in Chinese. So I just read for example, like a board book in English. I read it in Mandarin, and she looked at it and she said, no. And I did it at the beginning. I don't know why she said no to me. So I kept reading it, translating it, and she took the book and threw it away and went to her room, came out with the book in Chinese. So I feel like if we feed the kids or surround them with different languages, and that's a way to create a text-rich environment, will help them in their bilingual development. And Francis, I know you have good story to tell. Now share with us.
Oh, my son. I'll just start, mentioning when he was, I think, 7 or 8 years old. We had a hard time him wanting to actually speak Spanish or do anything. That's when he went to his rebellious phase. And at that point, what I did was I actually stopped pushing Spanish. I stopped speaking Spanish. But what I did was look for comic books in Spanish. And I had a hard time trying to find these little graphic novels for younger age children, especially in Spanish. So what I would do is I would actually go ahead and cover the English and put like a little sticky note over it and put it in Spanish and then just give it to him. Of course, I know, I think everyone's familiar with Captain, what's his name, Underpants?
Fancy.
Of course, it is not a diverse and it is not a cultural book, but hey, if I could get my son to start reading in Spanish using that book, that's a win for me, and I think a lot of parents can identify with this. And I know we also have a lot of teachers and librarians and educators here, and even who will probably watch the recording later on, it is a good way, obviously, I'm not telling librarians to go scratch your books and put them in Spanish. That's why we have books like from Language Lizard that are in different languages. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I loved Yoshita's comment about just really thinking of literacy also when you're having these literacy experiences, thinking of it as bonding experiences. And specifically when you're thinking of bilingualism, trying to get kids to feel like, yeah, this is a superpower. This isn't something that just makes you different or whatnot. Like it's an incredible achievement for them, right? And that's what I love about this month. It's really kind of like we're celebrating what you've done.
Yes.
And all the work you put in.
So
Actually,
true.
Anna, when you talked about a superpower, Francis has a picture book that's literally about that.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's called Coco, the Puerto Rican parrot. Obviously, I'm gonna go do a little summary about it. In Puerto Rico, most of the parrots were almost extinct back in 1986. There's this recovery program to save the parrots. They're native and endemic to the island. So these parrots were held in captivity, and the parrots in captivity developed a dialect different from the parrots in the wild. So then the scientists and the biologists there were concerned, like, wait a second, these parrots are squawking very different from the ones in the wild. And they were concerned that once they were freed and left to go into the wild, that they wouldn't be able to integrate with the wild flock. So then, of course, I found that research study, and I created Coco, which is a parrot who's in captivity, who's freed. And poor Coco, he squawks different. The other parrots do not accept him. But guess what? Coco's also bilingual because he can speak human. And of course, Coco saves the day because there's some humans that want to cut the trees in the rainforest. And then, Coco has to prove himself that being bilingual is a superpower. And actually, the dedication to the book is to my son. Of course, when I published it, he was already a teenager, but he did enjoy it. And it's really celebrating the dialects, the accents, the Spanglish, and even mixing our languages. And it's all in a book, and it's in Spanish, and pretty soon it'll be in English too. Thank you, Mia.
Yeah, talking about superpower, and then it is just wonderful to hear the connection, and also having bilingual books is a way in your classroom, at your home, in the school, is actually to help kids to get to know each other better. When the children can read a language they read at home, at the school, or in the classroom, they will feel proud, actually, because this is the way they can connect with their friends, read the same book, but they can say, oh, I know that words. Okay, and then they can share that. It kind of help others to have empathy and understand why, they have different lunch boxes, okay, eating different food, or sometimes once in a while when the mother or the grandmother come to pick them up, they speak another language. So it is an encouragement and definitely empower for the kids. And then we're going to move on to our second question, but before we do that, we have a giveaway. Liana.
Yes, and since we were just into talking about Frances's book, why don't we do her giveaway? And you can see on there, it's Coco, la Cotorra Puertorriqueña. And there's also, she has a resource, Puerto Rico's Tropical Rainforest. It's a mini book, and that is going to go to Barbara Cohen. So Barbara, if you can direct message me with your address, and we will get that to you.
And email too.
And email, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. And congratulations.
Wonderful. Yes, we'll have more. So stay here with us. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun. I see a lot of threads going on in the chat. So we are going to move on to our second question. And that is, connect your world and preserving heritage through language and stories. Okay, how to acquiring a world language? How do bilingual books and or literacy play a part in sharing cultures and preserving cultural heritage? And how or why have bilingual resources or literacy development can make an impact on your family or your own personal or professional journey? Yeah, so what's the impact and how do we use those resources? Yeah, we're going to go with our panelists. How about Frances?
I'm going to go ahead and chime in real quick. I know our expert panelists have more to say, but I do want to say something. That's why Read Your World's mission is so important, to celebrate diverse books, to celebrate own voices, so all these children and our students can see themselves reflected, and we've been at this for more than 10 years. But of course, I'm not going to continue because I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and we want to go ahead and get through the whole session. But yeah, I did want to mention that Read Your World's mission is precisely that, to celebrate diverse books and own voices as well. Let me see. Who else would like to chime in?
Yep.
Monica?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, that's Frances, why I've always been such a big supporter also of Read Your World, because I love the mission. And I've definitely always felt that bilingual books, they play a huge role in providing an opportunity for children to share their cultures. And I mentioned earlier that we work with teachers to create detailed multicultural lesson plans for students. And we do this, we really try to find ways for kids who are coming from different cultures to be able to share their culture with the class. So we feel like kids can really learn, there are certain literacy topics and required content that they need to learn, but they can learn that while at the same time sharing their culture and learning about other cultures. So just as an example, when my son was in third grade, I noticed that he was learning about idioms and figurative language in class, right? Which all kids do around that age. But I was looking at all the books and the worksheets that he used, and there was absolutely nothing about it that exposed him to other cultures or other languages. So we were talking about that at Language Lizard, and we said, hey, let's develop a set of picture books that can help students learn English idioms. And so the books are in English, but there's also versions available where the idiom is explained in another language, because a lot of language learners have trouble with figurative language. But when we did this, we also said, well, let's make all the illustrations show characters and settings from around the world. And then in the downloadable lesson plans, let's not only teach them about idioms, about figurative language, but let's also include activities that will help, say, the whole class learn about idioms around the world, or extension activities that allow children to, say, introduce parts of their language or parts of their culture through idioms. So they can go home, talk to their parents, find a cool idiom, what's the background, and then bring it to the class. So the whole class is learning about that. And then even with like activity sheets for that, right? So if you remember probably when you were young and learned about idiom, there were fill in the blanks, worksheets, etc. So we have the fill in the blank worksheets, but the fill in the blank will be a short story about, say, I think one is the Hanami Festival in Japan, or another one's about animals in South America. So kids are still learning the content that they need to learn in school. And they're still learning the literacy part of it, but they're also learning about another culture at the same time. So that's, I think, just one example of how the bilingual books can at the same time be providing education about different cultures and languages.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to mention, actually, Language Lizard has a series, Living in Harmony series, Be Kind, We Can All Be Friends, and Who Are We? I think this is really something very important, especially in this time of the world. We're seeing so many things going on, and that's one set of books. And then also a World of Stories collection. They are adventure set in diverse areas and cultures around the world. So these kind of books, bilingual books, really connect people, and also providing kids a different way to see the world outside of their own classroom or home, and then connect them with the world. So I think that's why the mission of Read Your World is so important. And also I want to mention that we also have two panelists that are from Europe, and then people are usually think, oh, Europe, everybody is multilingual, why do they focus on this? We need to learn from each other how they support. Is it true? And how come they also have challenges? So I'm going to hand it to Ute and Yoshito to share their insight with us.
Yes. Yoshito, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I guess I would say that first, okay, there are many languages in Europe. It doesn't mean that everybody speaks many languages. And I live in England, and for many people, they don't see why they would need to learn another language, because everybody speaks English. So that's also the attitude we have in Europe. So yes, well, we have languages, but it depends on the mentality, I guess.
Yes, and on the context where you live, or what you want to you want to foster in your family and in your community. I live in the Netherlands. It's very, very international. You have Belgium that is multilingual, Switzerland that's multilingual, and we have Lorenza Pescia here. She's one of my friends and former colleagues from the University of Zurich. I'm very happy to see her. She's on my screen exactly underneath me. But yes, to come back to your question about bilingual books, Anneke, you highlighted the fact that those who don't have other cultures at home can access other cultures through the bilingual books, and the other way around. So someone who has other languages and cultures at home, they can recognize themselves in these books in another setting, let's say at school, for example, or with their friends in the library or wherever they are. I always see both sides of the advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is I recognize maybe the script that we have at home in the books. So I say, oh, wow, they are reading the same things, or they are welcoming my language at school or in the community. From the other hand, though, when I see some of the bilingual books that I have gone through for my children and then they decide not to get, these were books that I also had, or I had when I grew up. I didn't have bilingual books. I just had books from Germany that portrayed a context that I could not really relate to, because the context I grew up in, I don't know, the plants around me, the vegetables we ate, the everything, the world around me was different than the one portrayed in the books, which led to a sort of an alienation from this. And a sort of, okay, I have to hide this because it's not really having anything to do with the context I grew up in. Whereas when you have a bilingual book that is very cultural sensitive and portrays a culture that is compelling and that the person who reads the book can relate to, that is opening the minds. So you say, okay, you bike to school, for example, in the Netherlands, but you do so also in Belgium, you do so in other countries, in Italy, in many parts as well, in Switzerland as well. So you can say, well, these are things that can unite different cultures. And I think bilingual books translated in all kinds of languages, I always look at what are the similarities between the different cultures. Can the child really relate to what is portrayed on the pages and said in the text? Are these words that we are using also in our home language or not? Is this actually a register that we use? Maybe it's not formal or it's formal that is used. So I'm thinking now not only about our youngest ones, but also about the older ones, right? That want to, the teenagers that might pick books that are not necessarily bilingual. And I think this is one thing that I would like to point out today, that when we talk about bilingual books, we may think, or at least I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think mainly about our youngest children or the younger ones, those who are starting to learn a language, but also older ones. Can I just show a book by someone else from the Multicultural Kid bloggers, from Adam Beck? Yeah,
Yes.
the 28
yes.
bilingual English, Spanish fairy tales. So those are, it's not a picture book. It's really a lot of text with Spanish on one side, English on the other. And that is very helpful for someone, even an adult, who is learning Spanish, because you can actually compare and learn by comparing the two texts. So I would switch also to the teenagers who want to learn, or the adults who want to learn and who can profit from bilingual books. If I were to start a new language, and I'm sure, Anneke, I will have a look at your books, if I find some in Korean, because I'm learning Korean, and I can show you one book that my daughter bought me. And she said, read this one. And you have on each page, you have, English and Korean. So I can compare and try to figure out how it works. So I think bilingual books, depending on how they are set up and how they are organized, they can be really profitable for everyone who is starting to learn the language. But there comes a moment where then you say, I want to now dig very deep into the language without having to go back and forth between the other language I know. But I have reached maybe a level of proficiency where I can read the book in that other language. And I think that's the next step that we can make with older learners or some who are more proficient in the respective languages.
So we're talking about the process, actually.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we're talking about the process. So I think that with what you just said, and Anneke, you just mentioned, I think I want to bring in this quote. You know, learning another language is not only learning different words for the same thing, but learning another way to think about things. I think that is so true. You're opening doors, opening windows, you know, opening a different kind of perspective. Yeah, so thank you. And Yoshito.
So thank you very much for Annika and Uta for all the points you've made. Many think of different things as well. One thing about cultures as well, I think it's really important to realize that multilingual children generally they grow up in one country, or it could be several countries, but in one environment that might not be the the culture of the languages they speak. So they know these from stories, from what their parents are telling them, or when they go back during the holidays. So the culture is not necessarily something that the experience of the culture is not necessarily the same as monolingual children who grow up in one place, just speaking one language. And so that's one point I wanted to address in my graphic novel that's going to come out, so it doesn't exist yet. But it's a book that's personalizable, and I wanted to make the images as well personalizable. So all the cultural things, it could be food, it could be the crops you have in the fields, etc., would be something that the child would need to complete with the what there is in the country of the languages they speak. So it would create a dialogue with their parents as well. So yeah, the cultural side is not very simple for multilingual children. And then, so in terms of stories, so why books are very important, I think stories are very powerful because it brings us like to live different adventures. So it has this power. It makes the language a lot more appealing. So I see this power in books. And what I think it's Annika who said it, it's like we can see, so when there are different cultures or different languages or in bilingual books, it's the experience that children have. So they are growing up with different languages. And I think, Uta, you said we feel accepted when we see different languages. And I remember my son, the first time he saw a bilingual book, English and French, he was amazed to see that it was in both the two of the languages he spoke. I think can have this effect as well to feel like, okay, I'm not weird. It's like there is a book that's like me. It's something that's published. It gives like this sense of like normality to the children. And also something I want to mention about our own experience with having different books. So in our home, we don't have many bilingual books, but we have books in all our languages. So we have some in French, some in Korean, some in English, some in Japanese. They don't read Japanese, but we have some because they are mine from before. But we don't categorize them. And I think having them all mixed up as well, and because they can read all of them, they can just pick them up. It gives them a wider range, so they can see their languages as being empowering. They can access more books. And because another point I wanted to make is that because they can read now, it helps them have a little inputs of all their languages from other sources than us. So I'm taking care of French, my wife Korean, but they can get French and Korean from the books as well. So I think this has helped us a lot. So having books in our languages. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to mention. So often we can think that books and cartoons or films are both good. They are both good, but one advantage I see with books is that when we read together, we can clarify things along the way, and we don't need to. So it's quite easy. Like I'm reading, and my son can say, "Oh, what does this mean?" I can just stop and explain. With a film, you need to pause it, or if it's live TV, you can't. But now you can on many things. You can just pause it. But pausing the action is cutting the action, and most of the time, so I know that when we watch films, my sons rarely ask, "What does this mean?" But when it's books, they ask a lot more. So I think that's another thing that's really good with reading books in all our languages.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so true, because I think it's not just the bonding. It's like you start to pass on some of the cultures and annotations, the deep meanings in words and in the books. Yeah, Francis, would you like to add anything?
Actually, what I did want to mention is that I want to be very respectful of everyone's time. And we have a couple of giveaways because this conversation can go on for hours. We all get in our element, we get all excited. But yeah, what I'm gonna do is just show up on a giveaway page to see who's our next giveaway.
Yes.
Hold on.
Maybe we should do 2 this time.
Yeah, we can do 2. Mhm.
Yes. Liana,
great
thank
idea.
you.
So let's go ahead and I'll do the first one is for Ute. Hold on a second, which that's going to be the toolbox for multilingual families, 2 copies of the paperback version. And for that, I was going to do, let's see, Janelle.
Okay.
So Janelle Carter, if you can send me a direct message and with your address and your email address.
Mhm.
And then we have let's do Amanda, which is Little Bun. It's going to be 1 copy of her book, and you can choose whether you want it in traditional Chinese or simplified Chinese. So make sure to let me know. And that is going to go to, let's do Asavari.
Yay.
Sorry, I didn't write down the last name. So if you could also send me your address, email address, and then let me know whether you prefer the traditional Chinese or simplified Chinese.
Yeah, it's also bilingual in English as well. Yes. Mhm. Thank you so much, Liana.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I think the culture, the bilingual books, and then the stages, the development, the process, it is so important. So when I wrote the book, Little Bun, I actually wrote this book with my daughter. And she's trilingual and she speaks Mandarin, Chinese, English, and then Spanish. And then people ask me, did she take Chinese at school? I say no, because she decided to take Spanish. And then at that time, I say, sure, no problem. And then last summer, she passed the AP Chinese and got 5.5. And then, so she's just really into languages. And then when we wrote this book, she said, I want to talk about the things like people all feel when I gone through this bilingual journey with you. So we pick the emotions, the social emotional thing, even though it's in English and Mandarin Chinese and it is in Pinyin and also with English. At the end, we have discussion questions. We want to include other people who are reading this with a different culture. So Little Bun, it actually is a food, a very well-known street food in Chinese culture. And then we want people to read this and they can talk about it. How about what's a food that is special to you? How do you make it? When you eat it, how do you feel? I think that's a connection we can make when we read a story, just like what Yoshito said. The stories are very compelling. It's a good story can really help people to understand each other and they can exchange ideas. And so with that said, we want to move on to our next question. That will be our last section. That will be the future of being bilingual or the future of being multilingual, and also the bilingual and multilingual literature. What's the trend and insights you have? Where are we going with the languages around us? Yes.
Well, for this, I'm actually going to let the researcher say something about this, Ute.
Ute.
So, because I could, my experience as a teacher, mom, is not the same. So I'll leave it to her. So then right after she's done giving her insight, then we can probably wrap it up. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time because I do appreciate everyone logging in, and we have 2 more giveaways. Ute?
Yes. So actually, I have a funny kind of answer to this because the world has always been bilingual or multilingual. So knowing multiple languages is very normal around the world. If you think about the different dialects that we speak, the different regional variants that we speak within the same country can also be like considered bilingual or multilingual, because if you think about the terms that you use, I don't know, in northern Germany are different than in southern Germany, in some states in the US are different from other states. I mean, you can just think about it quickly and you say, well, yes, actually the languages, even if it's the same language, it's quite different across a nation already. So when we add also foreign languages, of course, it becomes even more colored, it becomes more faceted. So I would say your question was the outlook for being bilingual, multilingual 2030. I think we don't have to look so far. We can just look around us. Everyone is trying to learn other languages because if we Google it, yeah, which language to learn next, you find a long list of what you can do and where you can learn them, and where you can learn maybe just very simple phrases that make you, yeah, pass your holidays maybe in a nice country, and you can get along with that. But so being multilingual is already the norm in many countries, even in those who call themselves monolingual, because people live a little bit everywhere. So I don't think that we have to look very far. But where this is going to go, I mean, I've did a little bit of research about what kind of bilingual books there are, and mainly what I found were mainly books, apart from those who have maybe English and languages, because English is considered the most spoken language around the world, or the most important one in business, etc. I don't want to get there, but it is mainly focusing on children that are quite young, so primary school, and then it becomes a little bit less. We have Yoshito, who's producing now some some books that are helpful for teenagers, preteens, teenagers, and beyond. So I hope personally that there will be more books that are appealing for that age group, so for teenagers, young adults, and beyond. Because for the moment, those who have maybe 12, 13-year-olds, if they want to learn a new language and they look for bilingual books, you can see either they have children books that are not so appealing, yeah, the characters are not so appealing maybe, or they have books for adults. They are not appealing yet. Or they are, let's say, appealing for adults who were adults 20 years ago. So I think there is one place where maybe some of the authors here in the group, or those who want to become authors, could look into it for the future. And that also the language combinations could be much more wider. Again, I looked on the internet what kind of languages and language combinations we have. I mean, if you're looking for German, and you find a lot of languages, but not all language combinations that maybe in multilingual families are represented. So I think there is a lot to do, and a lot of market research to do for authors of bilingual books, to see also which market they want to serve. And there is a market, because we all try to maintain or to transmit new languages that we picked up. It doesn't need to be necessarily our heritage language. Maybe it is a language that we learned on our way, and we say, well, actually, I'm quite good at this language, maybe not that good, but I want to transmit it to my child. And then a bilingual book would help, or any book for that matter.
Thank
Super.
you.
Could I
Beautiful. Thank you.
add a little thing?
Yes, yes.
Actually,
It's a big
it's
thing.
so first about the fact that there are not many books for teenagers. I think there is a gap in the market, and also that's why I want to focus on teenagers. And because for me, as a teenager, it's when being multilingual became difficult at an identity level, not necessarily language, but identity level. I think it could help to have more of these books. And also, but on a positive note as well, I want to say that I think it's getting more and more accepted, or it's in more and more scenarios of films to have multicultural heroes. So we have, like, for example, in Spider-Man, Miss Marvel, they're from different ethnicities, but it's part of the character. It's not just a film about being a Latino teenager growing up in the United States. It's just, he happens to be from a Latino family, but he is Spider-Man. And I think we need to have more of these stories where the hero happens to be multilingual, multicultural, but the story doesn't need to be about this, and that's going to normalize being multilingual, multicultural. So I think for where we are going to go, I think it's starting, but we need to have more of these stories.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of running out of time, and I want to go
Yes.
ahead and announce the last three winners. Liana?
Yes, thank you. we have 3 winners left because unfortunately I didn't double check, and the person that I had drawn for Amanda's had already left, and actually it looks like another person has already left too. So I'm going to be drawing a new person for Amanda's prize, which is Amanda Tousley. Sorry, or excuse me, Amy. Sorry, I had Amanda on the brain. Amy Tousley. I know I'm probably not pronouncing your name correctly, but you have won Amanda's prize, which is a little bun. So you can send me your address and email address, and then for Yoshito's, I have Pam Groves as our winner. Let me double check. Nope. Pam is not
Congratulations.
here anymore. Never mind. Not Pam Groves. In that case, I'm going to do Elizabeth. You have won Yoshito's prize. And oh, wonderful. That's great, Amy. And then last one is our big prize, which is from Annika. And that is to, let me see if she's,
Okay, before you announce the
Okay.
winners for the Annika book bundle needs to be in the USA.
yes,
So,
that's,
okay, so because I think the participants put where they were from. Just wanted to double check.
Yes.
yes, thank you for that. Let me, oh, okay, sorry, Elizabeth already has it, so it can go to somebody else.
Mhm.
This one, Yoshito's actually, thank you for that, Elizabeth, is actually international. That's why I was trying to pick somebody who was not in the US, but it looks like they had left. Sorry, guys. Then I will
can
go.
send
Yes.
it to the United States as well.
Then how about is it Farida? I'm going to choose you for Yoshito's prize. And for Annika's, I am going to choose. Let's see. Let's go with Julie Nalesny. Hopefully, Julie, if I remember right, you are in the US, but if not, please let us know. Because that one does need to be in the US. So again, thank you. Oh, I just got information for Amy. So if Julie and Farida, if you can message me with your email addresses and mailing address before you guys check out, please let me know. Thank you.
Wow,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to everyone.
Congratulations, thank you. This is as we expected when we start this, but even before we start this, we said, well, this is something we probably will participate in. We're so passionate about. We're probably going to have it. We hope we have enough time. We're running out of time, but we do want to have a few minutes. Francis, continue with your information for everybody for real world.
Yes, if you guys, of course, a couple of people have already left because we're scheduled to end like maybe 14 minutes ago. So I know
Yes.
people have other commitments. So if you found value in this program, you can scan that QR code and just chip in the cost of a coffee. You know, that would be awesome.
Okay.
And
So if the
mhm.
link doesn't work, I just scanned it and it doesn't work.
No. Okay, so I'll send the link.
Yeah, readyourworld.org, right? Right now
Yeah.
it's readyourworld.
I'm going to send the email anyways to everyone. Thank you, Yoshito, for letting me know. So, okay, so thank you, everyone. I just wanted to mention that we are having our huge event, January 25th, 2024, and it is also a virtual Zoom event. Thank you so much, Amanda, for organizing this too, you know,
Oh, thank you so much.
And all the panelists as well. Thank you for your time. Thank you, all the participants. A lot of them have already left, but thank you so much.
I have one more thing. This is the most fascinating event because people left and people coming in. People are still coming in. So I'm very grateful for Read Your World to be to support this program. And I'm so happy we're able to connect the panelists, the amazing panelists, Annika, I'm going to say everybody's name, Annika Forzani from Language Lizard with resources, books over 60 languages, and Frances Diaz-Evans, she is the founder of Discovering Espanol and also the award-winning author. You can find her at francesdiazevans.com. And also Ute Limaha, she is located in the Netherlands, joining us from Europe, and then giving us a lot of research-based information. And you can find her at her website, Ute's International Lounge. And then do check it out. There's so many amazing information there. And then also Yoshito Dharman Shimamori, and he is located in UK, and his passion just shines. You can see that. And then you can find him at libraryformultilinguals.com. Thank you so much. And of course, I cannot thank enough, to Read Your World, and also amazing Steph, Liana, and Francis, the pushing hand of this whole event. I know we'll continue this enriching conversation even beyond this event. So I'm grateful for you, and we need to remember reading bilingual books and reading diverse books teaches how to be respectful. And respect is contagious. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.